He is telling the Arab business world, these nations are quietly dismantling the 7-decade-old alliance with the United States, building instead an alternative system of bilateral trade. Furthermore, the U.S. dollar has been losing ground for some years now to other currencies. Bank of England Governor Mark Carney recently said, ultimately, we will have reserve currencies other than the U.S. dollar. And now it was Mr. Carney that just said a couple weeks ago, we're going to have a cryptocurrency that's going to replace the dollar.
Right. So this is advanced since June.
He quoted Alfred McCoy, historian, professor of history at the University of Wisconsin, saying the collapse of the U.S. dollar will mean soaring prices, ever rising unemployment, and a continuing decline in real wages throughout the 2020s. Domestic divisions widen into violent clashes and divisive debates, often over symbolic issues. So, in this, Doc, this is what really, he gets into talking about that this economic crisis is going to lead to a world war between the United States and China.
Right.
And he's saying that in the 2020s, there's going to, if we stay on the present course, there's going to be a military clash between China and the United States. And he said, after this war, the new world order will not be a G20, but a G2.
Right. Because nations, we see fractioning of nations right now. They're going independent, but after a war like this, you're going to have to choose a side.
And he's saying there's only going to be two sides.
Right.
This is it. There's going to be two superpowers. The world is going to be divided between two camps. And there will no longer be a G20 summit meeting. There'll be a G2.
Right.
I was amazed reading that statement last night. And he believes that the G2 will be the United States and China. That they will, that during the war, the envoys of the United States and China will meet while the war is taking place, and they will divide up the world. And like we had in World War II with Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt.
Right. But they were even planning, remember, they were even planning the post-war currencies while the war was going on. While World War II was going on, they were making plans for what the world was going to look like after the war, as if they knew who was going to win the war at that time. And so I have a feeling, I have my own speculation that people like in the Pentagon, they know this war is coming. Yes. They know it's inevitable. It's going to happen. That's why we're testing the Chinese in the South China Sea. That's why we're doing flyovers. That's why we're doing all
provoking riots in Hong Kong. They're setting the stage for the war.
Right. Because we need a war. We need a war to happen.
Like it's survival.
Yes.
I believe the U.S. is in such a weakened condition that a major world war would be the only thing that the elite running this country have come to the conclusion we have to fight a mega war, and it's our only chance. We're in debt so much. The society's fractioning. It's splitting apart. We're going to civil war. We have to do something radical, and it's going to be a global war, most likely with China, and it's going to be the only thing left. Now, this would explain, Doc, if there is a war in the early 2020s between the United States and China, this would explain that Deagle.com, that mysterious website that projects that the U.S. population is going to drop to 90 million by the year 2025.
Right. And we've been talking about this particular site for years, who they are, what they're about, but the number has caused us has compelled our thinking to what are the possibilities? What could bring about such a drastic change in population? We were speculating, maybe a major weather event, solar event, maybe, a terrorist attack of some kind. maybe disease or something like that. It could be any combination of these things. But if we understand the cycles as they stand now, then we begin to understand, in order for America to even keep 90 million people, they have to have a war.
Doc,
Because without a war, they lose everything.
What if the elite in this country have made a conscious, deliberate decision to start a war for the purpose of thinning the herd? Of saying we have to reduce the population if we're going to last another 100, 200 years.
Right. I mean, that is a real possibility, because think about this. As our population continues to age, we have ever increasing obligations to the elderly, to people that need additional help. So that's going to expand things further, and we're going to be making monetary promises that cannot be delivered upon. Already pension funds are collapsing. There is no way the Social Security fund pays for everybody that's aging. And so what's the solution? Well, you either print more money, which we're coming to the end to. We can't print unlimited money. Or you reduce the obligations. And that's evil thinking, but that's the way the devil thinks. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And he's doing all three in the economy.
Who does the United States owe the most debt to?
China.
And so if you go to war with China, you don't owe that debt anymore.
That's right.
So we may be dealing with the hard, cold reality that the elite of this country have made a cold, calculated decision that it's necessary to lose 2/3 of the American population in order to keep the country in existence for another century or two.
Yeah, because what is really compelling about that Deagle.com analysis is it shows the difference between 2020 and 2025 and the difference in population, but also shows the difference in the military budgets of nations. And the military budget of the U.S. in 2025 is at the same level as it is in 2020. In other words, the 90 million that are left are still, maintaining a nuclear fleet around the world.
Yes.
At the same budget, at the same level.
But you now have artificial intelligence.
Yes.
You have robotic warriors. You have robotic workers. So you got rid of all those worker bees that had no jobs.
Right.
Because the AI and the robotic revolution took their jobs away. See, I hate to think that, but I know that there are people who are this evil, who would say, we have no other choice but to thin the herd, get rid of a lot of our population.
To save our nation, at least in their thinking.
The technology revolution is going to eliminate millions of jobs. We're going to have social unrest. We can't feed them. What are we going to do with them? Just get rid of them. Now, how would you like, you just think about it, that somewhere in Washington, that planners are saying, we're just going to have to wipe out your family.
That we can't sustain a 300+ million population. We could sustain 90 million.
Yes.
I mean, that is a frightening thought, but that's the way evil thinks.
Yes. This next article was published by Nature. This is 2010, February 4, 2010, Nature.com. Political instability may be a contributor in the coming decade. Says the next decade is likely to be a period of growing instability in the United States and Western Europe, which could undermine the sort of scientific progress you described. This is talking about articles published in this. The article says very long secular cycles interact with shorter term processes. I'd encourage you to go to find this. You can just Google this story. You can read it for yourself. Start educating yourself about cycles.
But what compelled me about this particular article, Rick, isn't that the information that's in there, because we see it in other places. It was at Nature.com.
Nature.
Okay, so
why is that significant to you? Why
were they dealing with financial and economic issues in a Nature publication? I mean, it's a part of Nature magazine, and this is their website and everything. Because they see this as a global impact upon everything around the world. Not just the economies of the world about to change, but even everything about the earth is about to change.